Hey, Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to see you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. Tell us who you are, what you do.
So Ben Gaddis, I had a business in the agency space, an agency called T3 for a long time. So at my core, I think of myself as an agency guy, and had a great journey. Sold it to a private equity firm, and then eventually entered the dark side. And so I've been called a private equity guy now. Makes my, in some cases, makes my skin tingle a little bit, maybe not in a good way. But we're trying to be sort of the anti-private equity. So I started a private equity firm. My partner, Stuart Coleman, it's called Superstep Capital, and we invest in technology services and agency businesses. And that's all we do. So I've been
Yeah.
doing that for the last 3 years, having a lot of fun, and that's our story.
That's awesome, man. Well, tell us, how did you start T3?
Well, I didn't start it. I started my career in at the agency holding companies, and T3 was actually, it was a family business. So my whole family has been in services in the agency world since I was born. 50, 60 years now, and so it's all I ever knew. And I thought I was gonna do that. So I went and worked for Omnicom and IPG, and kind of learned on the dime of some of our big competitors. And I saw something really interesting. I don't know if you can see all these phones behind me, but when I was at Omnicom, Steve Jobs launched the iPhone, and there was this new thing that got created called, a mobile app. And I watched, and I kind of saw this, and I was in charge of mobile at that time. And I saw this development happen, and frankly, we missed it at Omnicom because the team wasn't ready to invest out ahead of some of our clients and invest in R&D and really kind of capture that market. And I got super frustrated, and I said, you know what? I think that this agency that is more traditional could be a good launch point to build the leading mobile firm in the country. So went back, took over the agency. It was kind of a small business there, and started investing in that. We became Coke's mobile agency. We won UPS. We won JPMorgan Chase, and scaled the business. Got it to about 50 of revenue, 50 million. And it was a hell of a ride. A lot of fun, learned a lot. And
Uh,
that was kind of the journey.
yeah. How many people did you have at 50 million?
About 300. Yeah.
Okay.
So, that was, and we were based in Austin, had an office in New York for about 15 years. We opened Atlanta and San Francisco. And that was back in the day when you had to have an office. And I mean, we had to have a New York office just to be legit. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the only way that people would take our phone calls.
Well, I remember when we started our agency in 99. And for first couple of years, we always wanted to look bigger. Like we'd go to all these meetings and people were like, how many employees you have? How many employees you have? So I remember we bought this big office, we filled it with cubes and filled it with fake pictures, and we would only invite clients over at lunch. And it'd be like, oh, everybody's at lunch.
Isn't that funny how that
Yeah.
was like the measure of success, and now it's going the other way? But
Yeah.
I remember that. I vividly remember I'd go to a conference and people would say, "How big are you?" And I'd say 175 people. And
Yeah.
what's funny now is that's not the answer.
No.
The answer is, how much revenue do you have? How are you able to scale this thing?
Yeah.
But it was just a big part of how we determined whether or not we were successful.
Yeah. And, I always laughed, too, when people would say like a high number, but then a lot was in media spend. That's why when I asked you,
Sure.
I was like, in the pre-show, I was like, well, 50 million in media spend.
Yeah.
You're like, no, all services. Cause that was the other trick that, people that had egos that needed to kind of validate themselves. But, nowadays, like I think it's better to get more profitable with less people.
Completely. And it's so doable now. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about AI. And I listened to the episode that you did about being all in. And I mean, the likelihood of being a premier agency, which is something that I'm really passionate about. So being a premier brand and having like 6 or 10 people and not being a boutique, it's like coming together now, where I
Yeah.
think that is so possible. And we're going to see some really cool stuff happen in the next 3 to 5 years in this space.
So when you went to T3 and you really went all in on mobile. I remember that time very vividly. What was the thing that got you, or like where was the agency then?
Mhm.
And what were some of the steps? Because, I always tell people kind of history repeats itself. I was just speaking at a conference in Denver a couple of days ago, and I was saying selling AI is like selling websites back in 2000, right? People are aware of them, but they really didn't know kind of the capability or the like that they needed them. So, what did you do?
Yeah. I, first of all, 100% agree because we've seen this story before. And, right before mobile, it was social. And then right before that, it was, e-commerce. And so I think there's a few things that we did well that I'm really proud of. I think one is it's almost a little bit of a burn the boats mentality of you have to go all in and you can't just be mediocre at a new thing. And you also can't expect your clients to fund your path to being the leader. So you have to invest. And I mentioned earlier, that's what frustrated me the most when I was at Omnicom is we just kept going. They said, go to your clients and tell them to give us a $500,000 project to build a mobile app. And so I'd go do it. And I say, great. And then they'd say, well, show me the last mobile app that you built. And we didn't have it.
Yeah.
And they said, well, okay, there's been 20 guys walking in. They've all built their own apps. They all have stuff on the app store. We're going to go with them. We're not going to go with somebody who's never done this before.
Yeah.
So what we said, and fundamentally that we want to solve our clients' hardest problem. If we can do that and prove to them that they should trust us with that, we'll actually get all the other work. We'll get all the easy blocking and tackling stuff.
Mhm.
So with mobile, we said, one of the biggest challenges is not just building the capability, but proving that it's worth building and that there's a business model behind it. So we built a strategy group and we started building mobile products like 7-Eleven. They had a mobile app, but really what it was the core of their loyalty program, mobile payment, delivery. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you see that this isn't just this thing. This is a multi-billion-dollar business that could be built on the back of a phone. And when we started talking that way, people they would change from thinking we were trying to sell them a thing to more we were going to drive their business. And that's what I love about what I get to do as a consultant, as a private equity, partner. It's when you can connect really challenging technology with the reason and the business case behind that. It changes the way you sell. And when done well, I've seen it just help businesses take off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you got to invest. Like I laugh at the example of the Omnicom, right? Like, cause that's what happens with everybody. We'll just get a client to fund it. And a lot of times when clients fund it, you have to do it the way the client wants rather than the way it's supposed to go. Like, at Solar, we were one of the first ones to do a CMS, an e-commerce store, email marketing, platform, but we kept getting distracted by clients. And if I look at that time and I did a dedicated team, kind of like what you did with the strategy team for mobile, and really put them on each of these, there'd be a totally different story, right? We probably wouldn't have sold the agency. We probably would have sold the different parts and the different technologies that we actually built and treated the agency more as an incubator because now we know how to build and we know how to market, we know how to create all that kind of stuff.
It's spot on. And one of the things that I think maybe I'm most proud of at T3 is we built a culture, and it was amazing. Great people, best people I've ever worked with, best work. But what we said is innovation isn't just something that we encouraged; it was an expectation.
Yep.
And that word got thrown around by so many people, but we really put our money where our mouth is. So, I mean, we started saying, all right, well, how can we align ourselves with our clients? We created this thing called the T3 Innovation Match, where we said, hey, client, Fortune 500, you're going to spend $5 million a year with us. We think at least 10% of your budget should be spent on projects that are risky, that are new, that are challenging. That's a really hard sell because guess what? If I spend 500K and then it gets just goes up into smoke and I don't have anything to show for it, that's challenging. So we said, all right, well, we'll match that. So we created the T3 innovation match. So you spend 500K, we'll give you 500K in services to do that. But there's a couple of things that you have to do. One, we get to pick the projects alongside you. We get to help drive the roadmap. So we're not really responding to you or working with you. We're going to publish the results. You're going to go to a conference. You're going to talk about it with us. You're going to be our biggest advocate. And guess what? Every one of those projects ended up being bigger than it started. It led to a new project. And the coolest work that we did came out of that program. And so, we had a program called T3 Ventures where we invested in seed stage startups. Not really and we made some money on it, and it returned pretty well. But it was really about surrounding our team with people who were doing the newest, coolest stuff, and that we could take that to our clients and show them that. It went so much further when we were doing versus saying.
Yeah.
And I think that you kind of have to do that in today's world, even more so.
Well, you got to also, I always like when agencies get a little skin in the game. I always joke, I had a small company come to me with an idea and I thought it was pretty dumb, and we passed on it because they wanted to give us like 10% ownership of it. And then I hide the damn little elf every year up until my kids are elf on the shelf. So that was big mistake or lesson.
Well, it's about to come out of my house, so I know what you're talking about.
I have a 19 and 15-year-old, so it came out a long time ago, so I feel a little bit better about it. But I still joke with people. I'm like, man, I could have had 10% of that pretty big company.
It would be a pretty big deal right now.
So, well, tell me a little bit about, we talked about kind of innovating and putting things together. Walk me through kind of the leadership team you built, because you can't build a company to 50 million all by yourself. You have to do it with a number of different people. What did you learn? Like, if you go back and start looking at that, what did you learn and who did you use? Not like it's kind of games, like more roles.
Sure. And it's kind of cool to actually, like, now I'm seeing, we have 4 portfolio companies and I'm seeing them build their leadership teams. And, there's some things I did that I would recommend and others that I wouldn't. And so I'm kind of getting a perspective on how I did it and where I made some mistakes and where I really got it right. I think the thing that was different there is that I was evolving a leadership team. So a leadership team existed. And so some folks who'd been there for a really long time, some who hadn't. And I think at first I was a young CEO. I'd never done this before. I was full of fire in the belly and wanted to change everything. And I think the first thing that I did that probably wasn't right was just expect everyone who was there to just understand what was in my head and my vision. And I didn't communicate it very well. And so we had some turnover because I got frustrated. And frankly, it probably should have been the other way around, where people should have been.
Were you trying to manage them or lead them?
I was trying to manage them. And well, honestly, I think I was hoping they would manage themselves so that I could go out and sell the dream and, go out and be in front of clients. And that's what I do. That's my superpower. And so I don't think that I was leading. I think I thought that by doing that and winning new business, that's what leading meant, and that everyone else would sort of figure out all the other stuff to enable that. So eventually, the best thing we did is take a step back and kind of realign on the values. Everyone talks about mission, vision, and all of that stuff. And I used to roll my eyes around that. But we made it pretty concrete and focused. We doubled down on innovation. We said, look, these are the 3 areas that we're going to focus on. It was, digital products, loyalty, and CRM. And so we kind of clarified what we were going to go do and for who. And then what that allowed us to do is just to look at everyone on the leadership team and say, where are the gaps? Who's going to take us to the next phase? And start thinking not about at 20 million, what we needed to get to 25, but what do we need to do to get to 40 and to 50? So I brought in a COO. I brought in a CEO that didn't work because...
Let's talk about that for a second. Why did they not work? What did they do?
Two mistakes I made. One, it wasn't the right cultural fit. And 2, I exacerbated that. because I frankly was looking for someone to do a lot of the dirty work and the hard lifting that needed to happen to scale a business and put that on somebody else. So, reorganize the team, drive utilization to be higher, think about the way that we hold people accountable. And really, what I was looking for is somebody to do that. And when you have somebody who you put that on, who also maybe just doesn't have the bedside manner, it
Yeah.
becomes really, really challenging.
So they're an
Um,
asshole.
Exactly. Exactly. And we had a rule. We had literally a value that said, maybe it's not as good now, but it's like we said we shoot the assholes. And
Mhm.
so like we just make sure that they're not in there. And I think I violated that 100%
Yeah.
because I could see that this person was extremely good, and no one actually could disagree with the things that they were doing. It was the way they did it. And then everyone rejected it just de facto because of that.
Yeah. We had our Aspen digital agency experience a couple weeks ago, and I was chatting with one of our members, and they're trying to find a COO. And I basically told them, I said, you the difference between a bad CEO and a good CEO is this: a bad CEO will come in, look at all the systems you have and add more and create more work for you as the owner or the CEO. A good CEO will come in, look at the systems. How can I reduce it and take a lot of pain from you so you have more time to do CEO shit?
That's that's exactly right. We talked about I at the end I had my own value, which is if I pay you a lot of money and you make my life harder, then I'm just going to stop paying you.
Oh,
And
that's miserable.
that kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
fixes the problem.
Yeah.
And that was the case. Now fast forward, brought in a different COO, who I won't say everyone in the agency thought was the absolute greatest, and was smiling every time he gave him something challenging to work on, but he understood that, and simplification and focus, and not just doing things because that's what a big agency did, but doing things because that was going to unlock what we needed to go do next.
Yeah.
And for me, that was the biggest unlock because it gave me back a bunch of time. And it gave me back, honestly, I don't know how to put a number on it, but it gave me back brain power.
Hmm?
And
Oh,
for
it's because
me,
you're not
yeah,
doing all this other stuff.
yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to quantify, but just, when I am at my best, I'm thinking about a new idea. I'm thinking about how I can get that in front of the right
Mhm.
person in the agency or the right client or make a connection. And I just didn't want to do that a lot of time because my brain was so overwhelmed. So when you take that off, I think that was a huge unlock. I think the other thing that we did was we focused on what I'll call like practice groups. And I don't know, I everyone I've seen go through this in a consultancy and the like goes back and forth on this. Do you have account leaders or portfolio leaders? Do you have subject matter
Like
leaders
practice
or
directors, is that
practice
what you're referring
directors?
to?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that we did is we struggled for a while with, as we added new capabilities, how do they not become watered down capabilities? How do we become the best in the world at that?
Yep.
And so we would put people who are really good client leaders in charge of a portfolio and then ask them to do a new type of project that they'd never done before. And there just wasn't that level of excellence. And so we ended up with this structure that was kind of a two in the box. And we had, essentially like a portfolio lead, and then a managing director. And so
Yep.
we paired an expert, subject matter expert, practitioner with an account leader or a growth leader. And we said the two of you are responsible for the P&L, and you're responsible for
Yep.
growing a practice and for getting to differentiation, but still doing it profitably. And when they had to do that together, it became this unlock where we were doing the best work, and the work was then feeding the next thing.
Well,
Yeah.
they're the new like CEO for that division. They could be that face, right? Like for many years, we struggled with the same thing. Like if I was the face of the organization, I could only be known for X. And I only had so much time. But when we put practice directors, well, now they can go out, talk about email marketing. They can go out, talk about mobile design or AI or whatever it is. Like and as the technologies get, right, like, we used to have a practice director for digital, right?
Mhm.
That would be like obscene, like everything's digital.
Yeah.
Right. Like you get broader, you have more directors. So
Yeah,
yeah.
we saw it. We created a restaurant practice kind of on accident because we won the 7-Eleven mobile app, and we started doing all this work, and it's not really a restaurant. They serve food, and we just had other companies calling us saying we wanted to do similar things. And then we won Pizza Hut, and all of a sudden we have these amazing clients in this space, convenience and food. What if we actually stopped putting random people on the next one and got some flywheel
Yeah.
momentum going around it? And we went from 2 to 30 restaurant clients very quickly. We built some IP, we built some repeatability to the point where I knew if we walked into a room with that team, we were going to win. Like it wasn't really a question. It
Yeah.
was kind of got to, can they afford us, or do we want this business? And that was really fun. So that was a meaningful shift there.
Yeah.
And then I'd say the last area that we really focused on was delivery. And we struggled a lot with, as you're doing the newest thing, how do you maintain quality when it's maybe never been done before?
Yeah.
And a lot of it came down to, we weren't great at setting expectations and aligning with the client up front around the impact that they had if they couldn't bring what they said they were going to bring to the table: team, technology,
Yeah.
access, those sorts of things. And so when we aligned on that, we removed a lot of that drag on the organization. Quality went up. And yeah, and the thing I never really, that I just never got to, was scaling out a sales team that was able to operate at like $100 million level. That was after our exit. And that's kind of where we were going next. We changed how we sold and how the broader team sold, but we never really got to like the $300 million BDR, SDR outbound engine that sort of fed itself.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a mastermind member, Travis, where they've traditionally come from sales and they've built a huge sales machine. They'll do 30 million this year. And
It's great.
it's all off building a sales team that hunts and kills and does an amazing job. And he always says, he's like, man, sales fixes everything. Because you got
It
money,
does.
you just throw it at it. Be like, all right, let's put this person in place. Because a lot of people, including myself, a long time ago, I would throttle back, right? As an owner,
Mhm.
and you're selling. What are you selling? You're selling your values, yourself. So if you don't have confidence in your team to deliver, well, you're going to be like throttle back. You lose all that momentum, and then it's hard to get going again.
It is, and at least I see that. Oh, well, I saw that all the time. With momentum is so important, and it's hard to overstate the value of that momentum inside the org with clients,
Yeah.
just like for self confidence. And so I think that when you start to see the team pull back, if you've got a sales engine and you've got a delivery engine, you don't have that tension where you go, okay, well, you know what, we may not have the team, but we know that we've got enough of a projection confidence that we're going to go out and hire proactively, and we're
Yeah.
going to be okay with that. And so you don't have this like additional, it's hard enough to sell something. It's significantly harder if your internal team is almost sandbagging a little bit because they know how hard it's going to be to deliver. And when you get over that, it's a big unlock.
I always looked at sales is designed to break delivery,
Mhm. Totally.
right? Like it's just,
If you're lucky.
it's just, we're going to push you as hard as you can. And then we're going to be like, all right, where do we need to fix the holes? That's it. Like it's never going to be perfect. And like when I started realizing that, I'm like, look, no business is perfect. The grass is greener on the side you water. So stop thinking. Like I remember when I sold the first agency, I was like, oh, I'm going to develop a product. And I was like, I fucking hate developing this iPhone app that takes pictures of everything you eat and gives you a visualization. I was like, this fucking sucks. I hate it. I was like, thank God that people started asking me to like help them out with their agency stuff.
It's a very different world. I mean, that's something we could talk about at some point. We see so many agencies try to build a product, and it's just such a different business, different mindset. Yeah, I'm an agency guy through and through.
Well, let's talk about what you're seeing, like see, if I can talk. You're my last meeting of the week. Like I told you, I'm off to, the mountains after this. What are the common things that you're seeing when you're talking to all these businesses? Like as of right now, are they growing? Are they is profitable? What challenges are they having specifically with the changing markets and AI and all the competition?
Yeah. We probably talk to 200 plus companies in the space a year, and have been for the last 3 years. And I think this year is pretty markedly different than what we've seen in the past. So couple of things. One, just a lack of decision making on client side that has made it really challenging for these companies to make long-term decisions, and to keep that momentum because they're not losing. I mean, almost everybody I talk to is less worried about their loss rate than they are about their no decision rate or their pipeline length, deal length. And so we're just seeing that there's a lot of uncertainty there on buyers, especially if you're in retail, something affected by tariffs. So that's a challenge. And then you exacerbate that with this sort of AIization of everything. And a client, I'd say probably not 9 months ago and maybe like 12 months ago, you started to see clients just expect because they had ChatGPT for $20 a month that everything could be done by AI.
Mhm.
And so this sort of like trough of disillusionment where there's super high expectations and on the agency, on the tech partner, on to deliver more with less at a lower cost. And then we've seen that kind of wear off a little bit because I think some clients have been burnt by
Yeah.
what actually can and can't be done. So there was a pause there, where it's really hard for agencies to sell larger high value projects. That's maybe shaking up a little bit. But then there's just what is the model? So on the other side of AI, like you should and must be faster. You should and must be more efficient. You should and must be better and be able to scale and do all of these things. And so put all those things together. I think there's a few firms who are able to look at the market. They know what they do very well. They know who they do it for very well. And they can look at those trends and say, this is our role in this new reality. And this is how we're going to attack it. Most of them, though, I think are just a little bit deer in the headlights and they're getting hit from all of these different sides. They don't necessarily know how to prioritize. And so they're struggling. And that would be the word. Struggle is what I've seen across the hundreds of folks that we've talked to. Maybe 5% of them are crushing it. And the others are just figuring it out.
I think people get frustrated too, right? Like, you think back I remember when COVID hit, I was like, oh, that's the end of all business. Thank God I sold, like, right? But then all the businesses like went huge. And then
Gangbusters.
up
Yeah.
until this point, it's been pretty fairly easy. Because, when I started in 99, it was easy in the first couple of years. And then the dot bomb happened. And because I was small, I was able to get a lot of runway, a lot of momentum, because a lot of the bigger guys, like you were saying, Omnicom, they're like, oh, we don't do this mobile app stuff. I was like, fuck it, man, we're going all in. We're going to do mobile apps. We're going to do a lot of custom dev. We're doing, all these different things. And we were able to get a lot of market share. And I feel like it's the same thing now. But people, they're doing too much and they can't really kind of think clearly almost, right? Kind of like before you hired the COO that worked.
Absolutely. I think it's it's a bit of a brain fog. It's you got punched 3 times from 3 different directions, but that is more easily to overcome if you actually have a strategy and you know where you're differentiated. So
Yep.
the other thing that I would say is AI does not provide differentiation.
Correct.
Everyone has the same tools for the most part. You can
But
build your own
they don't have the
models.
same data though. That's the thing.
Well, and how you apply AI is the differentiation. It
Yeah.
comes down to do you know a vertical better than someone else? Do you know a use case better than someone else? And so what's happening now is a lot of these companies, when things were good, they could get away with there's just a lot of work. And I didn't have to go out and hunt and kill something. The work kind of came, almost by itself, or it just wasn't as hard. So now when you don't have that differentiation, the market's getting disrupted both economically and from a technology standpoint. It really exacerbates that lack of differentiation. And so I think companies are going to AI as the thing that is going to differentiate them, but it's the wrong thing. It
Yeah.
might just make what you did a little bit faster and a little bit more efficient, but that's not necessarily what people are looking for. They're looking for a specific use case, a specific problem to try to solve. And that is, I'm seeing that across the board.
Yeah. How I use it, I think the big differentiator is, like you said, how you use it. But the thing that makes us all unique is our data. And what data do you have? Right. So we've been doing this business agency mastery for 11 years. And when people buy from us, we ask them in a form, why did you buy? What's your biggest challenge? A number of different things. So we have millions of data points to understand our audience in their own words. Now, for a person to go through that individually and to look for the gaps, that's what I always do, is look for the gaps rather than, like the common things. Like, it would take people forever. And I think that's really where, I tell our membership and agencies listening to this, start using that, because AI is not going to replace you. People that use AI better than you will.
Mhm.
And you just, and it's ever changing. Like, you have to, I was on a podcast a while ago. I was like, look, what got you here is not going to get you to the next part.
It's not. And I'm actually seeing more people do a better job than companies. And so what I'm seeing is that roles are being redefined by people who kind of have that mindset. Because you should give yourself more credit. It's not just the data and a bunch of people filled out forms. It's that you knew to ask them that question, that you've been in this space, that you have an innate understanding of the challenges because you're curious and you talk to people about those challenges over and over. So you can use AI to point you in the right direction, but then you have your gut and your experience to wrap around that. I think what's interesting is you take that same thing and then you say, all right, I'm put in a role. I'm a mid-level person. I talked to a woman the other day who's an account manager. And one of the challenges that she faces is, if she wants to go in and present something new to one of her clients, typically has to go engage a strategist or a technologist. You got to get on their calendar. You got to have some work or some revenue to go with it to get that person. Then you got to go present it. The client might have a million questions. And what she's found is that she is best at identifying the challenge that the client has. And she's built these workflows using AI that augment a strategist and that allow her to take a vertical expertise that she didn't have, be amazing at it. And so now she's walking into clients with new ideas that are strategic, they're vetted because she knows that they're going to resonate. But the thing that she's doing is amazing is then she's gaming out what are the objections that the client is going to have and a whole series of responses to that.
Yeah.
She's in essence playing like 3 to 4 roles, but she's doing it consistently. And this client is like, where the hell did this woman come from? She's amazing. She knows our business. She's constantly bringing me new ideas. I want to buy things from her just because I love that attitude and that mindset. And that is like the mentality right now that I think is differentiating.
Yeah, those custom GPTs, man. I love them.
Some pretty cool stuff.
There is. Well, Ben, thanks so much for coming on the show. We'll have to have you back on. We'll talk about valuations and selling agency and all that. But for everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it out. And we have an event coming up in April called elevatemyagency.com. It's going to be 50 to 60 agency owners, all that are amazing, that want to scale, grow, stop doing the stuff they don't like. So make sure you go to elevatemyagency.com now. And until next time, have a swank day. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out. Click on the link. I'll see you soon.